What is going on, everyone? Tim from Tierphone Orbital. So today I'd like to talk about a pretty gnarly hilt. This is I want to talk about the install as well, but I also want to talk about the hilt. This is the Korbanth Malgus 2024 from Korbanth, obviously. This thing is pretty freaking gnarly, okay? So I have done one of these in the past. It was not from Korbanth. It was an actual Malgus that I built. I believe I built it. God, it's been so long. A client or customer sent me a hilt to break the blades from and to add some of the greeblies on. It was a long, long time ago. This one from Korbanth is awesome. It really, really is a good looking hilt. I don't know why my camera can't focus. It is a great looking hilt, right? So I do want to talk about the install. It is a little bit intricate. There are multiple parts of this install. There is a Speakerpod setup in this as well. So I want to come into Fusion and talk about all of that. And then we will come up top, talk about how to use the hilt. And then we will put a blade in it. And then we will be on our way, right? So let's come into Fusion. Okay. So here is the chassis, right? We've got a bunch of different parts going on in this setup. Okay, so we'll start at the bottom. This is a Speakerpod setup in this build. So with this particular install, the client was very, very adamant that we get a 28mm speaker in the pommel, and I don't blame them, right? There is plenty of room in the, well, not actually, there's not plenty of room. Let me back that up. There's just enough room for a 28mm speaker in this pommel. In my opinion, whenever there is room, if you've got room for a 28, you've got to put a 28mm speaker in there. I just feel like 28mm speakers just sound far more superior than 24s. They sound great. So, however, with that being said, when you have exactly 28mm in the pommel, doing a Speakerpod is a little bit tricky, right? Because you can't fully enclose that speaker because you have the terminals on the side of the speaker that always protrude just a little bit outside of that 28mm range. So, I had to design a Speakerpod that accommodated for those terminals and all that. So that's fine. Not pictured in this is that Speakerpod setup. The Speakerpod is in 3 parts. It's got a lower ring and then the speaker enclosure itself and then the cap, right? So that is in the pommel. We'll take a look at that when we come up top. The Speakerpod makes a connection to the rest of the chassis through a pogo pin speaker set from Smugglers Outpost, right? And that male end, or the female end of that rather, lives in this lower cap. I wire that up, and then that is glued to the bottom of the chassis, right? But before I do that, obviously I have to wire up my negative battery lead and then bring my leads all the way up to the board, right? So that is what that cap is for. Obviously, here is our battery tray. Greeblies along each side of the chassis itself. Okay, so the internal diameter of this hilt is relatively thin, right? It's an inch all of the way down, right? So it is a thin chassis. Luckily, it is a long grip, so we had plenty of room to get an 18650 battery as well as a Proffie up top, right? If there wasn't that much, if there wasn't enough room to do the setup like this, I'm not sure I would be able to get a full-size battery in this. I would have had to have gone with, like an 18350 or something like that. So anyhow, did some knurling along the back edge of the chassis. There are 2 rectangular LEDs in this build. Now, I have since added this chassis to my online chassis index on my website, and somebody has already reached out to me asking what size LEDs these are. I'm going to put that in the description of this video, and I'm also going to put that in the description of the listing on my website. They are just regular rectangular LEDs. I actually sourced these. I think I actually got these from Amazon, if I'm not mistaken, but I'll make sure and put that in the description so folks can get them if they want them, right? I've mentioned this in previous videos. I'm just trying to get a little bit more conservative with my accents on my chassis, okay? Kill switch is along this side of the upper part of the chassis. And then, of course, our Proffie board sits in this tray. It does slide up underneath this lip. So you kind of slide it forward and then you slide it back underneath these two forks to just kind of help it secure it into place. All right. Up top, we have a 6-rail PCB. Now, this 6-rail PCB is from Stardust Sabers. This is also specifically sized for that 6-rail PCB. So if anyone is thinking about using this chassis for the Korbanth Malgus, it is sized for that 6-rail PCB from Stardust Sabers. I highly recommend components from Herb at Stardust Sabers. I like his stuff. I like that it is a unique component as well, right? It is a silver traced 6-rail PCB, okay? In the upper part of the hilt, we have to have our male end of that PCB as well as our switches, right? So we've got a control box in this hilt with some spring-loaded plungers that will make a contact to these red buttons on the upper PCB holder. So there are 7x7 tactile red button switches in here, right? And that is what those plungers make a connection to. That stem continues all the way up to our lit blade PCB emitter. And this particular one is from CCsabers. And that is it. Relatively simple setup. Skinny internal diameter on this one, but I'm happy that we were able to get a 28mm speaker in that pommel. Very tight in that pommel. Let's talk about that right now, actually. Let's come up top. All right, so here it is. The Korbanth Malgus 2024. I'm not sure why there's a 2024 on the box. It's the Korbanth Malgus. All right, gnarly looking hilt. I'm pretty sure the kit comes with both versions of these blades. Like it comes with regular unbroken blades, and then it comes with the regular, or the broken ones rather. I think it looks so much better with these broken blades. I mean, it looks great. It's a really, really good looking hilt, honestly, in my opinion. Probably manufactured by Elf and provided by Korbanth, I think. That is just my assumption. But either way, great looking hilt. Really, really cool looking hilt, right? So, obviously, we've got to get at our chassis. So to get at your chassis, you want to unthread this gigantic pommel. The pommel is very, very big, right? There is that speaker pod. So this is a very, very small speaker pod. It does have a 28mm speaker in it, right? So that can just live in the pommel, okay? So that just stays in the pommel. Here is our chassis. Oh, cool. I already had a battery in that. Here is our chassis, okay? So I did a pass of pewter rub and buff on this one. And then I have that lower 2-rail speaker pod set. This is from Smugglers Outpost. So funny story to the customer. The customer did send me a couple of components for this install, and he did include a speaker pogo set from stock, and I had full intention of using that. However, unfortunately, I left the small pogo pin side of that on my coffee table, and my dog ate it. So yeah, that just goes to show me that I shouldn't leave things lying around. So I have a puppy, and he eats everything. So yeah, that happened. So I had to replace that with a working set, and I have a lot of these speaker pogo sets from Smugglers Outpost. I actually really prefer these from Albert over at Smugglers Outpost. But anyhow, same concept. It's just a little bit bigger on the bottom, right? Battery trays here. I did paint some of these accents, red and blue. And then we have our red and blue rectangular LEDs here, okay? So to use the hilt, or to use the chassis rather, I've already got a battery in this one. You want to hit that kill switch. You're not going to hear an audible cue because obviously we're not connected to any speaker yet, but you will see that green status light on the Proffie board, and then obviously you will see those two rectangular LEDs light as well. So once you hit your power, you can put your chassis in. Doesn't matter which orientation you put it in the hilt. And then you can thread that pommel in place till it stops. And then you're ready to go, okay? loud hilt.
What is it? Your father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi.
All right. Let's come down to the bottom. The camera is having a hard time focusing today. So this control box, the switch is, it's not two separate switches. It's almost like a rocking mechanism. So the upper one is your main, lower is your aux. Let's put a blade in it. Okay, 7/8 inch blade holder. Another reason why I really, really like this hilt. Nice and deep blade socket as well. There is a set screw around back. So just rest your blade on those PCB pins. There's a set screw around back here. Just kind of tighten that to hug your blade. And you are good to go.
Ascension.
One more.
What is it? Father's lightsaber. This is the weapon of a Jedi Knight.
It's a great feeling hilt too. I really like the way this looks. And you get some shine through in those vents too, those upper vents. If my camera can focus. Looks really, really cool. I like that. Anyway, so that's it. That is the Malgus from Korbanth lightsabers. Great, great version of the Malgus hilt. Really, really cool looking with those broken blades, right? So anyhow, to the customer, thank you very much for your patience and trusting me with your hilt. If anyone has any questions about this particular build or this chassis, please do not be a stranger. And with that being said, may the force be with you always. Have a good one, everybody.